Only 2 more days of this circus, folks. And so we will take you through those 2 days. So let's make the best of it and run through the transfer portal. Another transfer portal update live right here at the Voice of College Football. Appreciate you all stopping by. Please leave the comments and questions there in the chat, and we will get to them. We appreciate those. So it's good to highlight those with a super chat. We will get to those if you have any comments or questions to make concerning the transfer portal or really anything in college football. But we are going with the transfer portal on these midday updates first and foremost. And the transfer portal closes officially on April 30th. This is the 29th, I do believe. Therefore, 2 more days of insanity. Again, let me make my statement concerning the transfer portal. First and foremost, I am a patriot and a capitalist. I am in full support of economic movement, change, options, opportunities, and choice. But when there is a system involved, when there is an organization, when there is a business involved, then there has to be constraints placed on it. There has to be regulations and guidelines to support the business, to help the business to grow, to function properly. And there's also a concern here and a component involved, and that's the interest of the fans. And the fans are the reason that this business exists. The consumer is always the reason it exists. Now, if the consumer gets abused and they're okay with that and they allow themselves to be abused, then the company is going to continue to abuse them. But if the consumer stands up, every business is for the consumer. So if McDonald's makes a crappy hamburger and people are okay with that, well, then they will continue to make a crappy hamburger, and then decades later they will merge that with crappy service. But if people are okay with that, then it's all up to the consumer. So if you and us and I are all abused by college football and we continue to consume it, and so that's why that's first and foremost why there need to be guardrails on the sport. I will say it for the athletes don't come first. We say that many times, that the student athletes come number one. Well, they would if they were playing club sports, if they were playing intramural sports, if this was for their well-being, for their educational opportunity, then they would come first. But no, they shouldn't come first. They actually should benefit from it. I'm not saying that their needs, their desires should not be taken into consideration, that they should be mistreated. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying that college football as an entertainment product is here first and foremost for the fans, not the players. It's here for the fans. That's like saying we're going to build a company and the workers out on the floor, the cashier, the stockers, we're going to do what's best for them first and foremost, and screw the consumers. Screw the customers. We're going to screw them, and we're going to make this the best working environment for our employees first. So if it's better for our employee to extend their lunch break from an hour to 2 hours because they need to buy a birthday present for their 3-year-old, and this causes us to have to make people wait in line, then we're going to do that. We're going to make haphazard rules that are going to allow the workers to do whatever they want, while we're going to make the customers suffer. I did not intend on saying any of this. It just came out of my mouth just now. So that's free of charge. But I actually think that was a darn good analogy there. All right. We do appreciate you being here at the Voice of College Football. Let's get to it. Not a perfect analogy, but I think it's pretty close. Who's here? All sorts of good people. Workers unite. You have nothing to lose but your chains. Well, the workers don't need to unite, do they? They can make all the money they want. They can go wherever they want. The workers don't need to unite. The fans need to unite. Rod, I am right there with you. The Rod Farva, or just bring back the rule where you have to sit out if you transfer. I'd have it where if you are transferring for a second time, you must sit out, unless, of course, the coach leaves. I am fully in support of that. But also, this is not going to fly unless this is a business. If this is run like a business and organized and constituted as a business, then you can start to put these things in place, because then the whole thing's a business. Then you can start telling workers where they're going to work. Would love to see that. Okay, players want to be paid. Okay, you're going to the University of Florida. You're going to Washington State. You're going to Utah State. Wherever. That's what the NFL does. You're going to Buffalo. You're going to Denver. You're going to San Francisco. And unless you're one of two athletes that has thrown a temper tantrum in the last 40 some years, meaning John Elway and Eli Manning, everybody else had to go where they were told to go. All right, let's get to the portal. It should be a long list today, I believe, because, of course, we have not been here since Friday. So we've got Colorado defensive back Omarion Cooper has re-entered the transfer portal. Began his career at Florida State. 37 tackles, 5 passes defense last season. Re-entered the portal. Boy, I hate hearing those words. Sam Heward, son of either Brock or Damon, I don't know which, class of 2021, has entered the transfer portal. Was at Cal Poly last year, 2,200 yards, 18 touchdowns in 9 games. Look at that lefty. Yeah. All right. Liberty starting left tackle Chase Mitchell. He's in the portal. He started every games for the Flames last season. You would think that he would be a strong commodity entering the portal. Again, that is Chase Mitchell. If your team needs a left tackle, they may want to give him a ring. Minnesota wide receiver Jalen Varner. He's in the portal. He transferred in from Emporia State in January. Went through spring football, back in the portal. Double porter, re-entering the portal. Hate that. Arizona wide receiver Kevin Green Jr. officially in the portal. And I state that understanding that it is not always the decision of the players. Tennessee sophomore cornerback Christian Conyer is in the portal. I know the name, know little about him. That probably goes back to his recruitment. Kentucky's transfer portal additions, those look to be on the hard court for their new head coach, whoever that is. Miami, no longer hosting Michigan State defensive lineman transfer Derek Harmon. His former Michigan State teammate, Simeon Barrow, is set to visit Miami, though. We've talked about Barrow. We've talked about Harmon extensively here and on the Miami show. Check it out. Oregon second-year defensive lineman Johnny Bowens. He's in the portal. 4-star prospect in the 2023 class. Had a freshman season. You see him against, I think that's one of the teams that they cleaned up 81-7 early in the season. Who was that? Idaho. That looks to be who that is there. Texas cornerback Terrence Brooks. We knew this last week. We talked about it. This was a bit of a surprise. He was a starter for Texas. He's in the portal. UNC Charlotte defensive back Cameron Howard has committed to Alabama. So he must be pretty good. It says big addition at a big position of need for the Crimson Tide. Cameron Howard, UNC Charlotte to Bama. Jacques Evans has committed to Baylor. Cal wide receiver Marquez Dortch has entered the portal. Transferred from Mississippi State last year after being a top 150 recruit in the 22 class. Mississippi State defensive lineman Wilkie Denard, former class of 2023 four-star recruit who transferred to Mississippi State from Auburn last year. So 2023 recruit and signee at Auburn. 1 year at Mississippi State. 1 year at Auburn. Goes to Mississippi State after the season. He's in the portal. Another one of these double portal guys. Hate it. Devin Williams, we've talked about him. Tulsa wide receiver, caught 29 balls for 399 yards and 2 touchdowns. He's in the portal, as expected. Indiana cornerback Kobe Minor, all Big Ten honorable mention. He's a Texas native. He transferred to Indiana from Texas Tech. And I would like to see what kind of numbers he put up as a all Big Ten honorable mention last year. So out of Kobe Minor, 29 tackles, 4 passes defensed. Do you need a punter? Ball State starting punter, Lucas Barrow. He's in the portal. We've got former USC defensive lineman Dejan Lafite. All I can tell you here is that we've got a USC show that we've done 100 times. We've got a call-in show that we do on Friday night without me, but I listen to it with Matt Zemek and Tim Prankley. We do a Monday night show. We'll be here 10 p.m. Eastern time tonight. Please check us out on the USC channel. We've done this show 100 times just on Mondays, and then another 75 shows on Fridays. I've never heard this name. So obviously not a factor because those guys are running down the roster practically every week. East Carolina sophomore tight end Antonio Ferguson. He's in the portal, played 84 offensive snaps last year across 6 games as a true freshman. 84 snaps, that's about 2 full games. Did not register a catch in 84 offensive snaps. Xavier Lozawicki, offensive lineman, committed to Cincinnati. The expectation is that popular Texas Southern defensive tackle Linus Noel is going to transfer to Baylor. He had 52 tackles, 3.5 sacks last year at Texas Southern. Central Arkansas transfer Cameron Hunter has committed to, that would be some hoops there. 247 Sports. We should separate the basketball and the football. Anyway, Michigan State. No, I am appreciative of the information and the service. There we've got a guy that we've talked about much, Eddie Woods, cornerback, Arizona State, 2-year starter, set to visit Alabama today. One of the top cornerbacks in the transfer portal. Understand when we state that's a pretty compromised statement when you talk about the top players in the portal in spring. Not super impressive. Houston wide receiver Sam Brown has committed to Miami. The number 10 wide receiver in the portal had 815 yards and 3 scores. Can they not report his number of catches? I guess not. We will do that. He originally was a West Virginia player for 2 years. He had 41 catches in 2022 at Houston, had 62 catches this past year. If he's going to Miami, I've obviously seen the guy play because I've watched Houston play the last 2 years, but don't recall his skill set. But 62 for 815 and 3 touchdowns is pretty good. Ohio State safety Jahad Carter. I remember when he was brought in from Syracuse. He's in the portal. He has slipped off the radar. Honorable mention All ACC at Syracuse in 2022, came to Ohio State, and I got to say, I forgot about him. Jahad Carter. What in the world did he do last year? He played all of 8 games, got to be mostly on special teams with 5 tackles. So All ACC honorable mention at Syracuse, 36 tackles, had a 65 tackle season, 35 tackle season. So in 3 seasons at Syracuse, 141 tackles with 5 picks. And he goes to Ohio State and does not see the field. Utah State running back Rasul Faison, he's in the portal. He had a nice season last year with 736 yards. So somebody can pick up a good running back who is looking for an additional season. He's listed here on College Football Reference as a senior last year. So this must be one of those additional seasons. 736 on the ground, 6.2 per carry, 5 touchdowns, caught 11 passes. Former Auburn cornerback Colton Hood, look at where he's going. Colorado. He's obviously not heard from Cormani McLean. Only played 4 games for Auburn last year with 3 tackles. Probably special teams. Former 4-star offensive lineman recruit Zach Owens on the move from Clemson to Colorado. That's a good move there in regards to Colorado trying to fortify that offensive line. They have certainly tried. Miami lands a commitment from coveted Marshall cornerback Deonye Hill coming out of his official visit on Sunday. And Deonye Hill picked up 55 tackles last year at Marshall with 1 tackle for loss and 1 pick with 10 passes defensed. Reunites with Lance Guidry, of course, who was the DC at Marshall prior to last season, and Chevis Jackson, the former LSU star, who's now a coach on the Miami defense. Texas sophomore defensive end transfer Jamon Tapp announced on Instagram he will transfer to Arizona State. So you now need to be an Instagram subscriber, follower to catch some of this news. 8 tackles, 1.5 tackles for loss. Again, a Texas backup, Jamon Tapp to Arizona State. Oregon State running back Damian Martinez, first team All Pac-12. We talked about that. That happened over the weekend to Miami. Big addition there. Damian Martinez, Mark Fletcher. Put those 2 guys together. You've got one of the best tandems in all of college football. Dylan Edwards going to Kansas State. We talked about that this morning, but we've not talked about that on our transfer portal update show. So there it is. Dylan Edwards to Kansas State. Kansas State lost Trayshawn Ward, the former Florida State running back who went to Kansas State and produced pretty well. I don't know what the story is there, going to Boston College from Kansas State. But for Dylan Edwards, 321 yards, 4.2 per carry, and a touchdown. He caught 36 balls out of the backfield and 4 touchdowns. He came out of the chutes in a big way against TCU with 135 yards receiving and 4 total touchdowns, 1 on the ground, 3 through the air. And then really after that, his best rushing games, 57 against Colorado State, 44 against USC, 33 against Stanford, 42 against Washington State. And again, threat out of the backfield, 6 catches against Colorado State, and a handful of catches against just about everyone they played. So more receiver, third down back out of the backfield. Former Bama center James Brockemeyer is expected to transfer to TCU. I remember when he was signed out of Texas. Miami lands former Louisville linebacker Jalen Alderman. He had an excellent season for Louisville last year with 62 tackles and 7 tackles for loss. Started all 14 games for Louisville, including one against Miami. Miami having a big day, a big weekend. Jason Zandamela is down to UCF and Florida. So here's the top interior offensive lineman in the country in the 24 class, never played at USC. You see him in the Trojans jersey on the practice field, apparently, and now he doesn't play for USC. He goes to UCF or Florida. He's down to 2. Ohio U, the Bobcats starting quarterback, Torrey Cox, 88 tackles, 4 picks in 2 seasons. He's in the portal. This was so important that we had to put this in all caps, apparently. Stephen Leonard, boom, former 4-star defensive back Traquan Fagans, announced he'll transfer to UCF from USC. And again, this is in need of caps. All righty. Former Rutgers defensive lineman, lost track of him. He was all the rage. We were talking about him a couple of weeks ago. This is Rene Kanga. He committed to Louisville. Well, somebody's got to commit to Louisville. They've lost half their team. So Kanga goes from Rutgers to Louisville. Again, let's not overvalue these players just because they're given some level of spotlight because they're in the transfer portal and being talked about right now. This guy is a backup defensive lineman. Washington second-year defensive back Diesel Gordon. He's in the transfer portal as well. And if nothing else, you got to love the name. Diesel Gordon, who has posted no numbers. Texas cornerback Austin Jordan, not Gordon, Jordan, Austin Jordan. He's in the portal. So the deal on Austin Jordan at Texas, 11 tackles in 2 seasons with a pick. All right, Chris Hummer reporting that Alabama is the team to watch for South Alabama linebacker Khalil Jacobs. We talked about that last week, thanks to one Chris Hummer in 247 Sports. Okay, this is interesting here. So many of you are familiar with Amarian Walker, high-level athlete, signed at Michigan, transferred at the end of the season to Ole Miss, back in the portal. So he's obviously not catching on too well to big-time college football. Couldn't make it at Michigan, can't make it at Ole Miss. We'll see where he lands. Originally signed with Michigan as wide receiver before moving to cornerback. Played in 6 games last year after missing time with an injury. Three tackles. Savion Red. Savion Red. And also an interesting note coming from the NFL draft this past weekend. Speaking of Texas running backs, Texas had a running back over the weekend at the NFL draft. who was selected, and I know who this player is, but I can't think of his name. But he was selected despite only toting the ball 11 times. Not Jonathan Brooks, who was the first running back taken off the board. The name escapes me right this second. His name is Keelan Robinson, the former Alabama player. Yes, Keelan Robinson, drafted in the 5th round by the Jacksonville Jaguars, carried the ball 11 times last year and played the entire season. He did play 13 games, so he was not injured. Former LSU and Oklahoma running back Trey Bradford back in the portal. No, he's transferred to North Texas. Transferred to North Texas earlier this year. Now he's back in the portal. So the distinguished career of Trey Bradford takes him from LSU to Oklahoma to North Texas to fill in the blank. Antonio Gates kid, Michigan State wide receiver Antonio Gates Jr. He's withdrawn from the portal. So he's going to stay with Jonathan Smith in East Lansing. Good for him. Jay Fair, Auburn wide receiver, visiting USC. We will discuss that tonight on the USC show at 10 p.m. Eastern and 7 Pacific. 31 catches to lead all Auburn wide receivers last year in a pathetic pass offense. Davin Townley, defensive lineman out of Penn State, entering the portal, and I believe we have caught up with where we left off last week on Friday. We are here at the Voice of College Football. We are here for you. Transfer portal update in the books for this fine day, unless you guys have anything there in the chat. For the remainder of the day, we've got 2 more shows. We come at you at 7 p.m. Eastern time with our Texas live show. Call it Horns Huddle. Matthew Miller and myself right here on the main channel, also on the Texas channel. That's where we would like to steer you over to the Texas channel for Horns Huddle with Matthew Miller and myself. Also at 10 o'clock Eastern, 7 Pacific, Matt Zemek, Tim Prangley, and I'm just along for the ride. USC Trojan Conquest Live. That's over on the USC channel. It used to be so much easier for me when we just called all the shows Michigan Wolverines Live, Ohio State Buckeyes Live, Miami Hurricanes Live, Florida State Seminoles Live. That was my naming convention because I'm a pretty creative guy. But now we have the All-In show on the Clemson channel. We've got Horns Huddle on the Texas channel. We have Trojan Conquest Live. Hit that like button. Thank you so much for that, D-Rock Irish. So much appreciate that. Just wanted to, again, update everyone on the transfer portal. The big news of the day, of course, Miami, Sam Brown from Houston, 62 catches, and the first team Pac-12 running back, Damian Martinez, and some other worthy impact players there out of dozens and dozens who are not impact players. Appreciate you all being here at the Voice of College Football. Appreciate your support. Join us every Monday through Thursday for, of course, it's Wake Up College Football, and we have a good time talking, guess what, college football, but we also talk whatever you want, whatever you like, whatever you guys are talking about in the chat, I pick up on and we discuss. Whatever the news of the day, whatever the feel of the day, we will take it in that direction. But first and foremost, the headlines. Open up the morning paper, opening up the morning paper, and we run through the headlines. We make some breakfast. We small talk. We get you ready for your day. So that's, again, every Monday through Thursday, 8 a.m. Eastern time, 5 Pacific. Join us on the West Coast as well. You can do it. 5 Pacific, 5 in the morning Pacific for Wake Up. Wake up. Wake up, college football. All right. Back at you in 3.5 hours with Texas Live Horns Huddle right here. Appreciate you being here. We will see you soon. And by the way, the Rod Farva, that news about Phil Simms and was it Boomer? Even though I no longer watch pregame shows, I find that interesting. I would have talked about that had I seen that. Boomer Esiason, got to say, I never thought he was that good of an analyst. Just not, he's not horrible. It's not like I dissected him and thought this guy's horrible. There are other people that I've actually taken in what they've said and thought that makes no sense. That makes no sense. That's poorly stated, etc. But with Boomer Esiason, pretty much just non-existent, not on my radar in terms of being good or not good, just kind of there. In terms of Phil Simms, back when he first started, I thought Phil Simms was one of the very best. I can't vouch for his studio work because I have completely cleared the deck on watching any of those NFL pregame, halftime, or postgame shows because they're a waste of time for me. All right, so just thought I'd chime in on that one, the Rod Farva with a media news and note there concerning two of the, 15 or 20 best quarterbacks of the last couple decades, something like that. Super Bowl starting quarterbacks, Phil Simms and Boomer Esiason. There we go. If anybody can name where they went to school, we will give bonus points. Once, going twice, going 3 times. We got Phil Simms and we got Boomer Esiason. Boomer Esiason, I believe, was selected in the 2nd round. Phil Simms was a 1st rounder, and the only one ever I can almost guarantee from this school, the Rod Farva. Perfect. Morehead State, 1979 for Phil Simms, and Maryland, Boomer Esiason. I believe that would have been 1985 or 84. He was not in the 83 draft. I think he was 1 year behind the elite 83 class. I think it was the 84 draft. It might have been the 85 draft. Yeah. And then the guy that replaced Boomer Esiason at Maryland was another distinguished player and coach in the NFL. Not that he was legendary based on his consistency of like greatness, but in terms of a one shining moment, just exceptional game. Bam! The Rod Farva, Frank Reich, of course, who authored the greatest comeback in the history of the NFL playoffs until, I believe, that Chiefs comeback against the Colts, or was it a Colts comeback against the Chiefs when Andrew Luck was there? That, I believe, surpassed it. This one was 35-3. Yes, 35-3, 32-point lead. That Chiefs-Colts game was more than that. I think it eclipsed it about 5 years ago. More than 5 years ago. No, about 5 years ago. All right. Anyway, there we go. Yes. Reich. Yes, exactly. So Reich not only had the huge playoff comeback, but they trailed Miami 31-0 in the Orange Bowl. He pulled that off. Down 31-0, came back and won 42-40 against Miami. Ralph says Morehead State with 10 NFL draft selections overall, but I believe Phil Simms the only 1st rounder. All right, folks. Appreciate you being here. See you in 3.5 hours. Texas Live.